What's up, everybody? Today, I have the honor to have Sarah Williams on the podcast, who is the subscription queen. You know, if you go start searching for how to start a subscription box for your existing e-commerce business, or you start looking for anything like this, you're going to start to see Sarah pop up all over the place. Which is, to be honest, how I found Sarah. So just a little backstory here. So Sarah has owned a brick and mortar store for many years, then moved into the subscription box model back in 2017-ish. And in the first 4 years, did more than $5 million in revenue with that. And on top of that, a really cool thing about Sarah is that not only does she walk the walk, but she teaches the walk that you should walk if you're interested in it. So I think that that's really, really powerful, that Sarah not only does this, but she teaches people how to do it. And to be honest, we have people in our community that are subscription boxes and they ask a lot of questions and I don't know a whole lot. So I'm like, well, let's find someone who's way smarter than I and let's bring her on the podcast. And so Sarah, thank you for joining me.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I will say, after listening to your podcast and looking at a lot of your stuff, it's really cool to see that you know what you're talking about, which is first rule of bringing someone on the podcast. In fact, if anyone's watching on YouTube right now, Sarah has like 200 subscription boxes behind her. And so if you could, Sarah, walk me through. So you just to kind of bring me up to speed with where you're at now. So when you started, it sounds like you had a brick and mortar. What was the brick and mortar?
So I had just a local gift shop. Like I was just locally driven, didn't even have a website except like a picture of the front of my building and here's my phone number and my address. That was the extent of my website. I was a local gift shop and I specialized in monograms and personalized gifts. So it was something that I saw this kind of gap in the market with the big box stores. I could personalize things and people at the big box stores couldn't do that. And so I had a very great little local following. I don't live in a big city. I live in a town of about 100,000 people. And that includes a college when they're in, and it includes an Air Force base. So it's not this giant place that I live in, but I had this little niche of personalizing things and it really grew. And of course, word of mouth just spread my business. And it was hopping. Like I had a very loyal following. People would come from small towns to come get something personalized from me, buy things, bring me things to personalize. So it was just a one-stop shop, gift shop, where I personalized people's items. And I was local only.
Mm-hmm. So this business, when did you start this business?
In 2013.
It was 2013. And then you mentioned in 2017, I saw that's when you rolled into the subscription box. What prompted that?
So 2013, I had a little tiny 600 square foot store, moved into a 4,000 square foot larger brick and mortar that I had to fill with a ton of inventory. And that was 2016. Going through that year, I was just really busy because my store was so much bigger than my little shop was. And so I was just hitting a lot more people. I started to see this repeat customer coming in month after month after month. And I've always done Facebook Lives to sell products. I would go live. I would walk around the store, show them the new stuff. People would come in and buy it. That's how I sold products. Well, what I started to see was people would come in like, it's already sold out. I just saw that 2 days ago. You're already out of it. And it was kind of like, I always felt bad. Like, I've sold out of this. And this is my awesome customer that comes in all the time. I wanted to create something that was like a VIP box for that regular customer. And what I saw them coming in, getting gifts for other people, getting gifts for themselves, checking out my new items. So I wanted to create some kind of offer that would be new and exclusive. So the subscribers would be the first to get this item. It was exclusive to the people getting the boxes. And I was going to bring something new to the table every single month with the subscription box. And I'm a fan of subscription boxes. I had a couple subscriptions myself, and I kept watching this one particular competitor of mine that was online only, not really a competitor. I mean, they don't know who I am, but they had a subscription box. They had probably 10,000 subscribers at that time. Wow. Who knows how many they have now? But I was looking at their box and I kept saying, I could do better than that. They had a lot of negative comments all the time on their social media about the quality of items, or people got the wrong size, or people got the wrong things. And I thought, man, I could do this, and I could do this so much better. And so that really sparked the combination of wanting to do something for my regular customer, and then me watching this other subscription box company and how many subscribers they had. I just thought it was so cool, and I wanted to dip my toe into it. And that was early 2017. And there weren't a lot of people doing subscription boxes at that time. And there certainly weren't a lot of small businesses doing that. And so it took a lot of me figuring out how to make this work. And through that process, I built an amazing subscription box. I only had 44 subscribers when I launched that box. That was my first month. And I had planned for 50. I thought, okay, let me look at an average daily transaction. Let me look at how many transactions I was doing a month in my brick and mortar store. What kind of goal could I set? I had some data to work with, and I think that's important for people listening. And so I just set 50. I didn't want to buy too much because I didn't want to get stuck with it. And I had to set this up online for the reoccurring payments. This isn't something I could do in the store. So this prompted me to get a fully website built with where I could put the subscription box on it. It was the only thing I was selling online. And that 44, I planned for 50. I sold out 44. I did the box reveal. I sold the other 6 in like 2 minutes of that live. I sold 75 the next month. I kept increasing it by 25. I was really slow growing it. I'm not a risk person. I'm not a risk taker. And I thought, worst case scenario, this is a flop. And I'll just sell this stuff at Christmas time in my brick and mortar. I know I can sell anything at Christmas time. So the risk wasn't so high for me because I knew at some point I could sell the product. And so I just went in, I kept increasing it. So the next month I sold out 25 instantly. The next month, 100. Then I bumped to 150. Now I'm at 300 by the end of the year. And it just kept growing into the thousands and thousands like it is now.
Wow. What was the price point on your monthly subscription?
It was $40 when I first started. Mm-hmm.
Is that a normal range? Because I think my wife and I, we have BarkBox, and that's like 40 or 50. I don't know. But then we have Farmer's Dog, which is like way more because it's food and stuff. Like, what's the typical range?
So that's one thing that I teach to my students is looking at your average order value. So for me, my average order value in my store was about $39 on average. And so I knew that my typical customer would come in and buy a few things and spend about $40. And so I didn't want to price it too high and exclude them. I didn't want to price it too low and it didn't have a perceived value high enough. So I just went with my average order value, whatever, like, okay, let's do 40. That's what the typical customer spends. And that made sense to me. And you should look at that. So if your average order is like $60, that should be your subscription box. If your average order value is $150, that should be the price of your subscription box. You already have this data as a business owner. Let's use it to our advantage.
Wow. That was brilliant. I've never considered, like, I speak AOV all the time. Understanding that helps me understand profits and break evens and ROAS and all these things. But I've never considered, how do you price a box and to say, hey, this is what our typical AOV is. It's like usually $50 or $60 to price your box around that. For anybody listening, you just paid for what that just paid for your ticket to listening to this. If you were paying for a ticket to listen to this, that's really smart. I like that. What kind of, go ahead.
Let me add to that. I'm almost 6 years into my subscription box now. My average order value from my one-time products is now $68 versus where it was when I started. That could be inflation. That could be that I'm better than I used to be, whatever that is. But now you see the price of my subscription box has a higher level. I have a $45 level, a $55 level, and $45, $60, and $70. So now my subscription box still aligns with that average order value as I've grown and as the business has grown. Okay.
That's pretty brilliant. So you started at the $39, the $40 range. Mm-hmm. So in the first year, you went from 44, 300. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you before you made like a massive jump to like 1,000?
So I hit 1,000 in the spring of that next year. So it was literally like 3 months after 3 months after I hit about 340 at the end of that year. Then I jumped to over 1,000 with the next launch that I did that March.
Wow. So things just clicked and you're like, we have this solidified, the foundation, the everything. And so that's a pretty big jump, but it sounded like at the beginning though, slow, steady, healthy growth is wise to mitigate risk. So you're not saying I'm optimistic as all entrepreneurs are, and we're gonna do 100 in month one. You're like, let's do 50. You came short. Then you even got the other 6 pretty fast after that.
Yeah.
All right. So you stepped it up.
It was a series of these lives that I was doing. Every time I would do a box opening live, I would fill any open spots and I created a wait list. And this is where my wait list strategy came in, because I had to buy this product further out than I would any other product in my store because the quantities started to become larger and larger. It wasn't like I was buying 20 handbags for my shop or 50 t-shirts for, the rack. It was, I was buying 100 of this or 300 of this or 300 of this. And so I had to start to plan out further than just getting 50 of something. And so as that happened, there put a cap on how many I could ship out. And so once those would sell out, I immediately needed to collect those people. I knew I needed to collect them so I could let them know when they could subscribe. So I started a waitlist page, and that basically just said, hey, we're sold out right now. Get on the list. You'll be the first to know when we have more spots available. It created a lot of things. It created scarcity. It created urgency, and it created this warm audience of people for me that told me they wanted to be a subscriber. And so I continued to build this list over these months because I was just selling out so fast. And that's when I prepared a big launch for March, knowing my list was just building and building and building over these 6-7 months that I only had 25 and 25 and 25. And so I was telling them, hang on, we got a lot coming. And I was really nervous about that because it was a lot more than I had planned for. And that's when I started the second subscription. I sold out. I just doubled my subscription basically. So I was at about 700. And then I had all these people that were like so disappointed they couldn't get in. And I very quickly, I made shirts. Like we have screen printer locally. I can get shirts like so fast. I started a t-shirt subscription. I launched it. And in one day I had 350 t-shirt subscribers. It was all the people that couldn't get into the box. And so that started the second subscription. And so those things kept going. Then, I was a little more confident. And I had increased my orders, increased my amounts, and kind of hit a plateau, and then was sitting on a lot of product and wasn't growing at the rate I had been growing. And it freaked out and I panicked. I was sitting on tens of thousands of dollars worth of inventory that wasn't selling. And so after a lot of like soul searching and researching and taking workshops and figuring this thing out, I'm not an e-commerce seller. I'm a little small town Texas girl that has a local brick and mortar store. I didn't know how to do this. And so I decided to run a closed cart launch. I needed to close the cart so that I could figure out what these numbers look like. This open cart model that I had been running was great in the beginning because it kept selling out. Essentially, I had a closed cart in the beginning. Once it sold out, I couldn't sell them anymore. The cart was closed. So I thought, that's what I'm missing now. I have too much available. There's no supply and demand issue here. There's no urgency. There's no reason for them to go sign up right now. I needed to close the cart. So I ran a closed cart launch. I had gotten back down from that 1,000 to about 700 at this point. So I was sitting on a lot of product. And I ran a closed cart launch just hoping I could recoup those 300 subscribers. And I actually got 600 subscribers, and I had to close the cart early because I couldn't get any more product. And that was me on the phone trying to get more of the same product quickly. And so that switched my mindset into this closed cart model where I would launch quarterly.
So what was the first box? Like what was in your very first box?
The first box is the Monogram Box. And so again, that's what I was known for, Monogram. So I needed to make it it had to be niche down. It had to be specific to what I was doing because I had that customer already. It is so hard to build a new audience. I already had this customer. That's who I was trying to support with this VIP offer anyway. And so the Monogram Box came with 3 to 5 items. One of them was monogrammed. So each one of these boxes was customized just for that subscriber. And I did all of it in-house. So I had embroidery machines, laser machines, printers. Like I did all of that anyway at my gift shop. I had all the resources, and it was a great way to not only pay off that equipment that I had purchased for my brick and mortar, but it allowed me to purchase more as I grew to streamline all of our processes. So we do all of it in-house. And so the Monogram Box had items. Now, this is one thing that I think is important for your audience, Josh, is when I looked at what I was going to put in this box, I was thinking about what my best sellers were at my brick and mortar. Every one of your people that have a business, they know their AOV. They know what's selling the best. They could very easily put a subscription box offer together. And so for me, it was t-shirts, graphic tees. It was tumblers. I mean, this was like the height of the Yeti revolution right there. Like everybody had at the time they were only silver. So I could really dress them up with some color. So it was cups, it was tumblers, t-shirts, and bags. I sold a ton of purses, weekenders, totes, like tons of bags. Those were my top sellers. And so I sold a lot of different things like candles and scarves and all kinds of different things, but those were my top 3 best sellers. So that's what I planned the box around. Okay. And so they would have, one of those items would be personalized. They all went together. There was a specific color theme or seasonal theme to the whole box. It was very cohesive. It was not one of those random boxes that just has random product from different companies. It was all very curated to go together. And so that's what was in the box.
Okay. I love that. If we can, let's trail that a little bit. So let's pretend, because we have a lot of people that have products they're selling already, just kind of, maybe they're not brick and mortar, but they have their store. They know their best sellers, their AOVs, they're kind of established already. And the question is, how do I create this recurring residual revenue? Or maybe someone's listening and to this and thinking, I would love to lean into subscription boxes. Like what are those steps? It sounds like the first thing is to look at your best sellers, because that's indication of consumer behavior, and say, hey, these might be things worth starting with. And the price point would be somewhere around your AOV. Would that be a really good first step?
Yeah. And I also would challenge you to think about, what are people repeat buying? So when they come back to you, what are your repeat customers buying more of that you replenish for them or that you provide for them? The hard thing with my business was it wasn't consumable. So they didn't like use it and need more. They didn't eat it and need more. They didn't, but it was trend and fashion based, and those are ever changing. And so I just leaned into seasonality and trends and color palettes, because when you think about your wardrobe, most women change kind of the color palette as the seasons go throughout the year. That could be with your accessories, with your clothing, with your shoes, with your handbags. And so that's kind of what I leaned into for my box, was to be really trendy and seasonal, so that not so much of a classic neutral style, but something that they would want to replace throughout the year.
Okay. So if we pull together, I love that. Look at your best sellers, but also look at what people are repeat buying. And then what do you kind of do from there? Like, how do you take that next step, and what would that look like?
Well, for me, it was the worst launch in launch history, because again, I was this little brick and mortar store that just opened my door one day and said, come shop with me. I didn't have any strategic launch plan to go online. I was so green at it. But basically, I needed to build it up. So we're going to seed it. And that's one of the first things you can do 30 to 45, 60 days out from launching the box. You got to set a date. Like you got to set a date, because if you say, oh, I'm going to launch it in the spring, it's never going to happen. I'm going to launch it in the summer. I'm going to launch it next year. We need to put a date on the calendar so that we can work backwards from that, and we can hold ourselves accountable for that date. And so it was like, okay, I knew the thing that was going to trip me up, Josh, was the tech part of it. I had not had a website. I had not had any products online. So quickly, I just hired that out. That is not my specialty. And I wasn't going to get in the weeds of trying to figure that out. And so once I met with that web developer and said, this is what I want to do. And I kind of scared, like, what do you think? Can you help me do this? He was like, oh yeah, you figure out what you want to put in it. I'll figure out the back end. Let's get it going. He said, I need 90 days to get it all together. I said, all right, I'm going to launch in 90 days. And so I was off to what I needed to do. He was off working on the tech pieces of it. We planned a 90-day launch because I didn't have a website. If you already have a website, this is one app, one plugin, one little tweak to your current website. You don't need 90 days if you have a website. And so it was, all right, what am I going to put in it? had been dreaming about this for 6 months, laying awake at night in bed, thinking about, oh, it'd be so cool if I could do this and this. You'll start to think about this nonstop. So what am I going to put in it? What am I going to price it? How am I going to package it? How am I going to fulfill it? Again, I didn't ship anything. So those were the 4 kind of pieces that I needed to figure out. And once I put those together, it was launching it. I had no pictures. Like, I'm telling you, this was the worst launch in launch history. I had a mock-up box that I imposed a logo on and put it all over the pages. And I just talked about it for 45 days straight. Hey, this is coming. I built that wait list so I could collect people in the beginning that told me they were interested. So I would talk about it when I was selling something else live or going live. I did this thing, and I still do it a lot, called Friday Faves. I would pick 5 or 6 items around my shop and show them live and talk about them, and people would buy the heck out of them. And so I would show up live and I would tell them I'm working on this. I got them involved in the logo colors, in the product selection. I did a lot of polls, a lot of this or that. I really got them involved in the process through my social media and email. And so I had a lot of buy-in. They were invested in this thing, right? They wanted to see it happen. And that's how I launched it. I just set a date, threw a weird, ugly image out there and said, I'm going to do this thing. If you like my shop, you're going to like this box. You're going to love this box. And I was so excited about it. And my excitement translated to them purchasing.
That's awesome. And, I think one of the big, I love the Friday faves. I think that's brilliant. And building the wait list is another really brilliant step here. Instead of just, because I've seen this happen to where like we get this idea, you sign up for like Recharge or Bold subscriptions or whatever. I don't know what other apps there are out there, but you create your subscription and then they just launch and there's no like build up to it. So you're saying, you determine your best sellers, kind of whether it's repeat buyers, determine what's going to be in it. You set the date to launch, 45 to 60 days is ideal. And then you start building that wait list. On the technical side, is there a subscription tool that you recommend?
Yeah. So if you're on Shopify right now, you just mentioned Bold and Recharge. Those are great. A lot of our members use Paywhirl right now because there's kind of a low cost associated with it. With Bold and Recharge, there's a monthly cost plus a percentage. With Paywhirl, there's a little bit higher percentage, but no monthly cost. And so someone that's just starting out may choose Paywhirl over the others because of that monthly cost. But all 3 of those are really great apps for Shopify. If you're on WooCommerce, I use WooCommerce subscriptions. So that's another great platform there. And then an all-inclusive subscription-first model is Subly, and we do a lot of work with Subly, and we love them too. So those are some options for the tech piece of it.
Okay. All right. So we set the date. Everyone take note of those tools. We'll include those tools in the We'll find links to all of those. I've heard of all of them. Subly. I think there's some people in our group that use Subly. You build this wait list, in the preparation to the launch. So like, what does the typical investment look like? Like, are you customizing boxes, ordering in bulk? Like, what does that process look like? And what's the average investment to get going, would you say?
So for me, with my audience, which are typically small business owners, I encourage them not to do a custom box for the first few months until you kind of figure something out.
Okay.
Because you're going to make a lot of mistakes in that first couple of months. And I don't want you to have thousands of dollars invested in a bunch of pallets of boxes that may not be a right fit for you. And you're going to figure that out within the first couple of months. And so for me, I had a goal of, and I know we're talking about this, 6 years later, but my big goal was to have 100 subscribers, Josh, like that. When I launched this, 100 subscribers meant that my rent and overhead utilities at my brick and mortar was paid for. And then everything else that I sold in the store was just a bonus, right? And so that was my big goal. And I said, okay, when I get to 100 subscribers, I'm going to invest in the box because it's costly, especially if you don't need a lot. So what I encourage my audience to do is to use basic boxes and just jazz them up a little bit. So you can use, I want them to use mailer boxes. Those are the best types of boxes to ship your subscription. You can get a craft box, you can get a white box, you can get a black box, you can get lots of mailer boxes are on the market from lots of different packaging vendors. Start with that and figure out your sizing, because as good as you are at figuring out what to put what in, it's going to change as you do this a little bit. Okay. And I can break that down for you. But I did that for about 3 months until I really solidified it. Okay. It doesn't make sense to have a bunch of different sizes of boxes. That investment's too high, and that's going to eat into your profit margin quite a bit. So you've got to figure out the sweet spot on sizing. And so that took me a few months to figure out. And I was a little all over the place in the beginning with, oh, this is really cute, I'm going to put it in the box, and then it's way too big. And then I have to get a special box. And it was just costing. I learned a lot of lessons. Again, I didn't have this little roadmap to follow like I give all my students. So it was a lot of trial and error for me. But now we have one size box. The goal with your box is that it's large enough to fit all the things that you would want to put in it. It's small enough that there's not dead space in the boxes. What I see from my students is sometimes they'll get a bigger box so they can include a lot of things. Then they're going to have to fill it with filler because it's not full, and it leaves a bad experience for your subscribers to open a box that's half full. So you've got to settle in that mid-range there, so you don't have to use a lot of filler, because some months you're not going to be able to fill the whole box because your products are different sizes, especially for me that has like different size things. If you have like, say, a candle of the month subscription, you know exactly what that size is, and you're going to send the same size every month or something like that. But you need to figure that out. Sorry. You need to figure that out before you invest in a custom box. And so I would encourage people not to do that right away while they're figuring a few things out. Then the next thing, once you figure out that size, I actually use 2 sizes. I use a 15 by 10 by 4, and I use a 12 by 9 by 3. And that is because sometimes I have more clothing items than other items in my box, and they're thin and they don't fill the box. I want to make sure the box feels full. And so I'll use the smaller box in those months. So because I'm planned into 2024 at this point. I know 7 months out of this year, I need the bigger box. I know 3 months left in this year, I need the smaller box. I know what's in there. And so then I can bulk buy based on what months I need what box.
Wow. So how long, speaking of time, you're talking 2024, this is a little ways out. How far in advance, once you get going, do you start planning the next box? Like, what's a good cadence lead time wise to be in?
That kind of evolves as your subscriber base evolves and your buying habits evolve, right? So in the beginning, I bought a lot of wholesale when I needed 50 of items or 75 of items. And then it turned into sourcing products from overseas. And now I'm into full-blown manufacturing of my own products. And so as this kind of evolves for you, your timeline's going to evolve. Wholesale, I could get online right now, buy 50 of something, it'll be here next week. No problem. Okay. So I didn't have to make so many decisions right away. I always wanted to be a month ahead when I initially stopped. And then this thing called COVID happened and it jacked our supply chain. And so that caused a lot of issues for me. And I learned a lot through 2020 and even early 2021 on where I needed to be in order to fulfill the amount of products that I needed. And so then it turned into sourcing overseas. And so that was products that were already made that I didn't design, that I just imported. And at that time, it really only took about 30 days to import. So I was working on about a 3-month time frame. So I would plan out 3 months in advance before 2020. And then when 2020 hit, I need about 6 months to make sure all the sourcing, 4 to 6 months typically, to source, but manufacturing, the whole line of getting samples made, adjusting, costing, all of that, we now are about a year out. And so that's why we're working on 2024 right now.
Wow. So one big takeaway from that, and I'm on the same page with so much, is like something we say around here a whole lot is like the first is the worst. The first time you do it, everything is the worst time you do it. And I love the idea of like, don't just go all in and buy all these custom boxes and buy in this massive bulk when you don't even know, like you don't know what people want or not want or what the size that you actually need is going to be. I was listening to a podcast you did on how you added over 100,000 in monthly revenue and by time you launched your second business. And in it, you were talking about you had a beta group, and it helped you find these flaws. It helped you really refine your offer and exactly what was in it, so you would have the confidence to take it to a larger audience and take that to the next level. And you were even talking about, and maybe I got this wrong, my memory isn't the greatest, but you did a survey and you found that like 85% of your subscribers, they wanted like more t-shirts in their boxes. And so you just listened to your customers and you shifted things.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more on that? Like, how do you close the loop on the feedback so you can rapidly start to figure out what people want and get to that confidence level?
I think the first thing that you should really consider is that when one or two people give you feedback, that is not the masses. And sometimes as business owners, we get tripped up in trying to please everyone. And I need you to remember that that's not everyone. That's one or two people. And we do so many little things in our business to please one or two people that actually don't benefit us or serve us in any way. So the goal when I want feedback is I want a big pool of feedback so that I can use that data to make the best business decision overall. Not what's best for one or two people, but what's best for the group. And so it's just a lesson learned through the years that I need to stop trying to do everything for everybody as much as I want to serve all these people. It doesn't serve me, and it ultimately doesn't serve the audience either. And so that was one thing I really had to learn as my business was rapidly growing. And so for me, they're my best customer. It was after the first year. So it was about 8 months. At the end of that first year, when I had about 300 subscribers, I was getting ready to go to market to look at the trends, decide on some product lines, figure out what I needed for the next year's boxes. And I thought, let me send out a survey to all of my existing subscribers, asking them what their favorite item was from the past year, what their least favorite item was, what they wanted to see more of. Like there was probably a list of like 8 questions. Again, you want to make this super simple because people don't have attention spans anymore. Yeah. And so if you give them a lengthy survey that they have to like type stuff in, give them like a drop down, make it easy for them to reply, because I wanted a majority of my people to respond to that. So I had the biggest pool of data that I could going into the next buying season. And so something that I didn't realize was that 85% of my subscriber base wanted more t-shirts. I was giving them 1 t-shirt a quarter in the box. And so that was a big eye opener that they wanted more of that. And for me, I was like, how many t-shirts does somebody need? Right? Like I wasn't thinking that they just wanted more and more of those. And so that's when I launched the t-shirt subscription in that March, when I sold out of all the boxes and wanted to continue selling. Like that's my habit of things. Like, no, I got more stuff I can sell. Let me do it. And I'll pull something together really quickly. But that's how the t-shirt club came about. And so now I had 350 people subscribe on day 1 of my t-shirt club. And now also they have an option to add it to their box. And so that became one of the upgrades. And so that's how that evolved, just asking them what they want. And I think you can do that with your first pool of people. The first pool of people that you get to become a subscriber is probably your loyal customer. It's probably the one that has followed you for years, buys all your stuff, watches you if you're live. Like that's your first customer. And if you can give them an opportunity to help you figure this out as you go, that serves you and it serves them too. And I have subscribers. I was looking at this the other day. I have subscribers that have gotten 64 boxes from me. My OGs, my original subscribers.
Like day one.
I can't even imagine what their closets look like. Like, help me purge. But they are your loyalist people. And those are the same people that show up every week and buy more stuff from my shop.
Wow. So, okay. So, on the LTV side and the churn side of it, are there averages or statistics that you have on like what is the general percentage churn month over month, or what the average and I'm sure this is going to vary, so many variables to determine LTV. You know, we worked with a brand that was a $39 box. He had like 10,000 subscribers and their LTV was like $914 according to glue.io, which is bizarre to me that people were on it for 4, 5, 6 years. So like, is there a general, like how long people stay on that you see?
So my LTV is about $2,300.
Wow.
And it is on average over 24 months that my subscriber stays. I have a 3 to 4% churn, and people just stay. I have huge retention rates. I have a lot of really amazing customers. And again, I think that there's a difference when you're talking small business and big box businesses. And there's a difference in the way that I acquire customers or I nurture customers than a brand or a big box store does. And so that creates a lot of connection and a lot of loyalty because I'm a person and not a brand, not a logo, not a faceless company. And it creates this 96 to 97% retention month after month after month. And that retention also creates this kind of scarcity of I don't have boxes available all the time because my retention's so high. I don't have this leaky bucket. Of course I have churn, and a 4% churn on thousands and thousands of subscribers is a lot, but I could have thousands of people churning a month, right? Like, typically the bigger box, I was at a conference last year and I heard I can't remember the name of it, Profitwell. Profitwell is it's a software company for e-commerce and probably subscription boxes, but they were talking about their average churn was, their average retention rate was 68% for their clients.
Ooh.
And I thought that is crazy. I would tell you that the average in my students is above 90%. And so again, that has a lot to do with big brands focusing on the acquisition and not focusing on the customer. And that makes a big difference.
So let's talk about that. So if I'm tracking these numbers here because I want to give some tangible things that I'm walking away with. So we create our bestsellers, we set the date to launch, we build that wait list, and then we launch. How do you improve retention? Like, what are some things that you do so that you get people to stay on for 2 years and spend $2,300 with you?
There's a lot of touch points with me, and I invite them to a box opening. I'm emailing them. I'm promoting them user-generated content of their box openings.
And when you say box openings, so do you mean like every month before it ships, you open the box so people see what's in it?
Yeah, so I'll do a live box opening. I'll invite my subscribers. I use a text app and I'm constantly in communication. It's a two-way text app. They're texting me pictures. I'm texting them. I'm inviting them to come join me for a live box opening on my page. I'm doing a lot of surprise and delight in my box. And that could be something that's unexpected. Like, oh, here's a $20 coupon for my shop that you can go buy anything else that you want to. And then in that email, I send them, here's 3 cardigans that complement the t-shirt you got this month in your box, or the earrings or the bracelet or whatever that is. But there's so many connecting points. And because I was sold out for so long, if they didn't have a box, you couldn't buy the product in my shop because we were sold out. So only the subscribers got that bag, got that shirt, got that whatever it was in, and people felt like they were missing out all the time. And so they don't quit.
Wow. So you have a really, really high touch. How many emails a week do you send to your list?
3 on average.
Okay. So you have text, you're doing live box openings, you are emailing them. What are a few examples of things like you'll email them?
So I'll email them, say a box opening. So after I do the live, I'll just take that and put that in email format, and I'll link, like I'll take a screenshot of me holding the box while I'm live or something, put that at the header. They click on it, it's going to send them over to the live on my Facebook page. But then I'll break down the box opening. You got this, you got this, you got this, and you got this. And I'll tell them why. Here's why I put this together. I'm curating every one of these. Everything has a purpose and a theme. And so here's what you got this month. And I'll end that email with a sneak peek for the next box. I'm always teasing them about the next box because then they don't want to quit. They see the color palette. What I do is this sneak peek. I'll take all the items in the box, I'll put them real close together, and I'll go real zoomed in so they can't quite tell what's in the box. But there's a lot of interesting little details in the color palette. And usually I'll put the monogram in there. And so once they get that they're intrigued. Now they can't wait to get that next box.
Wow. And so every month, do you not allow people to, like, if I went to your website today, can I just buy today and get one right away? Or is it like there is a wait list and you build urgency and scarcity every single month?
Right now I'm open. We've increased quite a bit to meet some new MOQs from my manufacturer. So right now you could get in if you wanted to. And it's been that way for about 3 months. So we'll see. Once I hit that MOQ, I may shut it down for a little bit to bring back that scarcity and urgency again, because that's always done really well for me. I don't want to have an open model all the time because I know what that closed model has done for me. But I built a wait list so much in 2018 and 19 that I didn't have to do one launch in 2020 or 2021. All I had to do was send an email to the wait list that I had added in 300 spots, and they were gone within a day or two. So I had built that wait list up so much that I didn't have to launch for 2 full years of, hey, I've got boxes and let's do a full on campaign and launch and all that stuff. So that was really, really great.
What is and maybe this is the last question on the box strategy here. So like if I build this all up and I want to build the wait list, how are you driving traffic to the wait list? And then after you launch, let's say you're doing the closed scarcity model, how do you consistently get people on the wait list?
So one of the big things that I teach, Josh, is that we have to talk about our subscription box a lot, even if we have other products. And so we have to find this sweet spot of combination of our everyday one-off products and our subscription box. And we have to mix them together, even if you're closed, because we don't want people to forget that we have a subscription box. Okay. So I have a lot of training on like a 30-day social media plan just for your subscription box. So that could be like 5 posts a week, and they could be different about your subscription box. It could be behind the scenes. It could be an unboxing. It could be a sneak peek. It could be a picture of your boxes. Like there's a plan for all of that. Keep putting it in the forefront of your business. And then your call to action when you're closed is join the wait list. Never miss out on another box again. Join the wait list, join the wait list. That's your call to action in the email that you're sending about the box. So you want to send out information about, and it could be me drawing the design. I'm the designer. So I could be on my iPad on Procreate, and this is a short video of me drawing the next t-shirt design that goes out in an email. Check out, our past shirts that I might have in the shop, and you could grab one of the past shirts that are still available, or get one every single month, get on the wait list. So you could do different things like that. The key is, even when it's closed, you're driving traffic towards that page and that wait list, the sales page for your box. And then when they click that they're interested, it goes, hey, I'm sold out, and join the wait list. So you'll be the first to know. But you've got to keep putting it in front of them.
That is a wonderful piece of advice. I think that something that I see all the time is that we know, like, it's the curse of knowledge, right? You have a 9 or you have a 10 out of 10 on a scale of 10 of knowledge of everything from your shipping to what's included to the things that go in it, to the branding, to the return policies, everything. And your consumer is like a 2, and so a lot of times we think people have to know this and they should already know, but they don't. And so communicating that frequently and clearly is very important.
That was one thing that I kind of struggled with when I was kind of in that plateau. Like I struggled with, how do I keep growing this like all the time? And it was one of those things that I'm like, well, I'm not talking about it enough. Like I would ask people that would come into my brick and mortar shop, I'm like, oh, do you know about our subscription boxes? No, I've not heard about it. I'm like, what do you mean you've not heard about it? I talk about this thing all the time. And it's so true for all of us. We're so close to it. I've sent out 68 boxes. Everybody should know I have a subscription box, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that we're constantly growing our audiences. So we're constantly funneling new people into our world that don't know anything about us. And we have to remind them a small percentage are even seeing our emails, seeing our social media. They're not listening. We get in our head that we're sick of ourselves because we're sick of ourselves, right? Like I get sick of myself talking sometimes.
Same.
But yes. And so we're like, they're sick of me talking about this stupid box. They're not even seeing it. That's the thing. We know that law of 7. We got to keep putting it in front of them 7 times. We have to keep talking about it. And the beautiful thing about our subscription boxes is that every single month we have something new to talk about. We have a new collection. We have a new flavor. We have a new scent. We have a new theme. We have a new holiday. So it doesn't get stale. It's not like, you and I have digital products, right? With our courses and memberships. It's the same offer over and over and over again, right? And so with our boxes, we have this unique ability to promote something new in the same way every single month. So it becomes a rinse and repeat. It becomes a playbook that you set up. On week 1, I'm going to do behind the scenes all week. I'm going to send an email about behind the scenes because that's when we're packing in my warehouse and all the boxes are stacked. They make great videos, great pictures. My ladies that work for me that are packing them, we can do behind the scenes content week 1. Week 2, we can do a lot of subscribers are getting their boxes sharing. And it's a mystery, so they don't know what's in it. So I'm teasing, have you got your box yet? Don't spoil it. And I'm doing a lot of user-generated content, say in week 2, that can also go out in your email and you can have them hit reply, send me a selfie with your new t-shirt and earrings on or whatever. I do that also in the text. And so then I'm getting more content that I'm putting back in front of the audience on social media and email. Say week 3, I'm going to do the box opening. So now I'm going live. I'm doing the box opening. Every day that week, I'm showing one of the products in a lifestyle image. So how would you use this product in real life? I've got flat lays. I've got models. I've got me, darn it. They always want to see me in the dang things. And I don't like that. So
I want Sarah Williams.
I'm trying to get away from that, but it's just one of those things. So then I'm talking about the box that becomes a blog. So now I've got content for a blog, a box opening in the blog. I've got an email. I got a live. I got all these social media posts because when we do the box photos, we take a ton of them in different angles, different settings, different products so that we have lots of different content. It's not the same picture of the same box that we're showing all month long. And so that could be week 3. And then week 4, you could start teasing the next box. Here's a sneak peek. Here's what we're doing to prep. Here's my color palette. Here's like the monogram machine running, putting monograms on something. Like all those pieces create interest and it creates people that like, I want to be a part of that. And that's my goal every single month is to just make somebody watching that is not a subscriber want to be a subscriber. And I do that in a lot of different ways, a lot of different, media types, video, static image, all of the things, email. I want to hit them where they're at. I want to meet them where they're at. There are people on our list that will never open an email from us. They won't. It's fine. There are people on our social media that will never watch a live with us. That's cool. There are people that will only scroll through your posts and never watch anything. There are people that will only find you on TikTok or Instagram Reels watching your short videos while they lay in bed at night. Like we have to meet people where they're at in this age, this digital age of marketing. And if we say, well, I'm only going to do this, you're losing half of your audience that probably likes your things, but doesn't consume it in the way you're delivering it to them. And so it's just about meeting people where they're at.
Wow. Sarah, you are a wealth of knowledge. And there's no question in my mind why you've been winning so much over the last almost 10 years. 10 years now, right? 2013 to 2023. Yeah. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like if I just sat here for like 48 minutes with you if I had access to all kinds of other stuff. So if anyone wants to dive deeper into this, Sarah, you have a podcast. Is it called Launch Your Box? Is that with Sarah?
It's called the Launch Your Box podcast.
Everyone go listen. It's a really solid podcast. I've listened to a couple episodes in it. Really good. The Launch Your Box podcaster. You also have launchyourbox.com, how to start a sub box on Instagram. You can go to Facebook and find Sarah at How to Start a Subscription Box with Sarah. Do you have any other resources that, like, I like giving our audience resources that I just don't even touch?
I've got this great masterclass that I think your audience would be perfect for if they want to really dig in and figure out how to get a subscription box going for their existing business. It's called 30 Days to Launch. And in 90 minutes, I'm going to break down what you should be doing the 4 weeks before you launch so that you have a plan that all you have to do is execute. We get in our head so much and everything becomes overwhelming and we're not exactly sure what to do and it stops us from moving forward. So I'm going to give you a 4-week plan of how to get your subscription launched.
I love it. So what we'll do, we'll create a URL. If anyone goes to alleypodcast.com/Sarah, SARAH, we'll just redirect to whatever that page is, Sarah. I think that success leaves clues, and I think that you have proven track record of doing this over and over and over again. You can just go look at your Instagram and your podcast and all of that. You live it, you breathe it, you teach it, and you do all of this on your own, which I think is just wildly impressive. Sarah, thank you for joining.
It's not just me, Josh. I have hundreds and thousands of students that are super successful launching and scaling their own subscription boxes too.
I love that. Amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. Everybody, you have been listening to the E-Commerce Alley podcast, produced by the legendary Dylan Counts. Thank you for listening. If you want to join our E-Commerce Alley Facebook group, it's free and it's easy to get to. Go to alleypodcast.com/group. You'll be able to get in there. A lot of other e-commerce owners, growing, scaling their businesses. We go live in the studio every single week, and we will see you in the next episode.